Hi there and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I made a video. It's really just down to time constraints. I have a day job. This is purely a hobby for me, but I do have some content in the pipeline and I hope that you get to see it soon. I still need to complete it obviously for that to happen, but I want to thank you very much for watching what I do put out there. I hope that you find it useful. For me, it's really around trying to be informative, give people an education on some of these things that we're able to do with getting out there, with the overlanding, with the camping, etc. And obviously the wildlife and all the wonderful experiences that go with it. So I hope that you find the content that I put out there useful, and I'll try and continue to make more as life goes on. The topic that I wanted to talk about today is the use of portable power stations for overlanding and camping. And I made a decision around 8 to 9 months ago to purchase a portable power pack, and I'll take you through the reason I decided to go that route. So I think first off, you got to ask the why. So why would you want a portable power pack, or why would you want the ability to run, say, 220 volts AC power when you are out camping? So it's not necessarily a necessity, but it is a want. It's not a need, it's a want, it's a desire. So for me, I want to be able to do things like perhaps make ice with an ice maker. And again, these are luxury things, right? I'd like to be able to use an air fryer so that I can, make some interesting meals whilst I'm out there. Especially if I'm on the move. I want something that's quick and easy, and I can make it happen fairly quickly. I can make something really good in an air fryer. I mean, I use it at home all the time. So why would I not want to have the same capability when I'm out and about and traveling? And then of course, coffee. Everyone loves a good coffee. I'm one of those people, a bit of a coffee snob. And I would like to be able to do something like that when I'm also out and about and on the move. So to fulfill my desire, my want for AC power when I'm on the go, I could have gone and put an inverter into the vehicle. Now that would obviously give me that capability. I already have an auxiliary battery in the vehicle with a DC-DC charger setup that can also take solar input. So I've got power in the vehicle. That's to run a fridge for me and a couple of other things that I've got going on in the vehicle, lighting, etc. But I also like to tow when I'm going on extended trips and when I plan to be less on the go. I want to try and establish some kind of base camp and then go on game drives, etc. I would then have to fit an inverter to the bush larper as well, so to my trailer. And that would mean that I most likely would have to do both. And that's why I started to consider the idea of, well, could I go and buy a portable power pack? And there are obviously pros and cons to both of those approaches. I think for me, if we go back to the inverter installation in the vehicle and in the trailer, that's obviously quite a costly item. I would need two. It cost me quite a lot to have two of those. Probably need to be, say, upwards of 2,000 watt type inverters that I'd have in there so that I could run something like an air fryer, which is going to consume probably around 1,800 watts or so. Obviously, they're not portable. They're not something that I could use at home. They would be locked down to my vehicle and to my trailer, but they would serve the purpose, right? The other thing is, you need a lot of add-ons to go with that in order to consume that inverter. If I want to run something off the inverter like plugs, etc., I'd have to try and fit those in somewhere. So you need a lot of add-ons to go with it to make that thing function. Advantages of that solution is obviously it's ready to go. So those things would be fitted as permanent fixtures in either of those vehicles, and they're there ready to go whenever you need them. They're obviously out of the way as well. That's a bonus. So they're not like a battery box or something that's going to be sitting in and taking up space. Typically you'd install them in a place that's out of the way, out of sight, and literally plug and play and off you go. And then of course you already have power in both of those vehicles. So you already have a DC-DC charger well, I have one in my vehicle. I have power capabilities, charging capabilities in the trailer as well, solar panels, etc. So I already have the charging of the battery challenge resolved, because obviously the inverter is running off that battery. You need that energy in order to, that capacity anyway, in order to make use of it. Pros and cons of a portable power pack. Obviously, I like to start with the cons first. So one is it's going to take up room. So you're going to have to find a place to house this thing, and they come in various shapes and sizes. and you need to find the one that's obviously going to work for you, but it is going to take up space somewhere in your vehicle, in your trailer, wherever you decide to keep the thing. And then you have this challenge of, how do I keep this thing charged? Because it's not necessarily tightly integrated into your existing charging system. So you need to find some kind of solution in order to keep that thing topped up. And because you're using things that are going to take a lot of energy quite rapidly out of these batteries, you need to find something that's going to charge them up fairly quickly. And otherwise it's going to be useless to you. You know, if that thing runs flat all the time, it's actually going to be a pain to use wherever you go. It's not going to serve the purpose that you set out for it in the first place. One of the pros of the portable power pack is in the name. It's obviously portable. So you can move that thing around, you can put it wherever, you can use it at home. And in that sense, it's quite versatile, because you could put it in your trailer, you could put it in the car, you can put it at home, you can take it, you know, wherever you like, on any of your travels. And that makes it super versatile. The other thing is it's all in one. So, you know, these power packs have got obviously the batteries in there, the inverters in there. It's got a bunch of DC outlets as well. It's fully controllable. A lot of these things are remotely controlled as well. So there's typically an app that you run on your smartphone. It connects via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and you can control these things, and it makes them really, really versatile. And that's an all-in-one kind of unit. So 8 or 9 months ago, I opted to purchase a portable power pack, and I went for the EcoFlow Delta 2 option. Made most sense for me in terms of its capacity. And that goes as far as the battery capacity is concerned, and also the inverter capabilities that are in the unit. You know, it can do up to, I believe, 2200 watts using its proprietary X-Boost function, which you'll see as we navigate through the app as to what that exactly that means. It has everything that I need, you know, in a single unit. So it's got USB-C power up to 100 watts, so that'll allow me to charge things like my MacBook. My MacBook Pro will plug in there directly, charges straight off the power pack. It also has your traditional USB-A connections for some of the more legacy devices that have not transitioned to USB-C yet. And those also charge at quite a rapid rate. I think I can't remember exactly the amperage output, but also super handy, at least at the USB 3 standard. And then you've also got the inverter capabilities on the other side of it. So you've got, 220 volts in our region anyway, output for your appliances, for your AC power. That's obviously all the inverter outlets. And you've got 4 plugs on the unit. You know, you've got the typical two-prong European/South African type of connections. And then you've got the old school 3-prong South African plug fittings as well on our units anyway that we get in South Africa. And then you also have the DC outlets where you can plug in straight DC power units, things like lights, and of course it has a traditional DC cigarette lighter socket output as well. So you can use a lot of the devices that we probably have already in the form of lighting. It could be radios, could be all sorts of things that GPSs and so on that we might use off of a cigarette lighter output in our vehicles where those things still exist. So one of the luxury items I would like to take sometimes when I go traveling is an ice maker. So I have the National Lunar 12 kilo ice maker here, which I've used on trips as well as at home. It's in a cover here from Camp Cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in to the EcoFlow quickly. What I'll do is I will switch on the inverter from the app. So we now have AC power, and that will now allow me to switch on the ice maker. So that is now powered on, set to make large ice cubes, and you'll see in a moment as it begins to run what it will draw from the EcoFlow. Right, so now you can see that the EcoFlow is showing power consumption. So there's some power going out here on the AC front. See, this ice maker uses around between 120 to say 140 watts depending on what it's doing at the time. Generally when it's running the refrigeration process here and actually making the ice, you'll see it's consuming about 122 watts. And not long later we have ice. Experiment 1 completed. Okay, so let's do the same experiment now, but with the air fryer. So what I'm going to do, this is a Philips air fryer which uses around 1800 watts. You obviously get these in different sizes, and I think from the app what we'll do is we'll switch on the inverter again. Anyway, you get these in different sizes. This is quite a large air fryer, so for camping purposes you probably want something a bit smaller. But you'll see how I'm going to turn that on, and let's just put this at 180 degrees, and I'll just put it into a preheat mode. And there you can see we're using 1800 watts of power with the air fryer. Now this will deplete this battery very quickly. As you can see, it's now saying it's got 23 minutes of time remaining, considering that this battery is currently at 80%. So let's let this run for a minute or so and let it drop that off, and then I'll show you what it does with a coffee machine. One of the other pros of the EcoFlow is how quickly it can charge back versus some of the other power solutions out there. But again, in order to do that, you have to have a high input, which is challenging when you are traveling. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So you can see we've only got 20 minutes left now, and the air fryer hasn't reached 180 degrees yet. Now you can also change the view on the EcoFlow app to give you this view. So if I set that as the current, and we go back to the view now, you can also see it in a different sense. Okay, so the air fryer has reached 180 degrees centigrade, and in order to achieve that, we used up around 20% of the capacity of this EcoFlow. So again, very important as to how we can get the thing charged back up again, which I'll show you. So in this next experiment, let me make a cup of coffee. So I'm going to plug in both the Nespresso, this little Nespresso machine that I have, as well as the milk frother. So there you go, there's a milk frother and the Nespresso itself. We're going to try and do this together. So I've got 2 pods here. I'm going to make this extra strength. Then from the EcoFlow app, let's turn on the inverter. You see that should be available now. We should be able to, let's turn on the coffee machine just so that it starts to preheat. You'll see it's turning on. Let's get the milk frother going so long. So you'll see there, together these items are consuming almost 1600 watts of power. Now a coffee machine will not do this for long, because it's literally just going to dispense the actual Nespresso pod. Let's make a cup of coffee. Here comes the coffee. You'll see when these elements are running that it jumps up to about 1600 watts of power consumption. Okay, so that's one pod. Let's do another one. Actually, let's do this. We'll make a small one. Milk froth is still doing its thing. As soon as that milk reaches the temperature, then we'll be good to go for our latte / cappuccino. Okay, and it's done. So there you see the power drop off immediately, consumption, and just in that little experiment there, we managed to make a good cup of coffee. Let's just get some of this milk out of here. Nice cappuccino. So you can see here the luxuries that something like this can enable for you when you're on your travels. It's a very, very versatile unit. You've got 4 USB-A's on the front there. A couple of them are the fast charging ports. So those would probably just be a higher amperage output. And then you've obviously got your USB-Cs, which are great for doing your thing with laptops, etc. The other thing that you can see here on the side, which I did do some B-roll on, is that there's an extra battery port. So if you do want to expand this thing, this is used for a couple of functions, which I'll also show you. There's also a means to charge this unit using this port, but it can accept a secondary battery. And in the time that I've used it, this thing hasn't bleated, hasn't given any problems. You'll see here it's got an XT60 connector as well for solar / car charging. There's a reset button, and then you've got your 220 input here as well. So when you're charging this at home, you actually plug it in there. And then you have a little cover here as well. This unit also does have a nice cover that you can purchase with it. So that's what it looks like in its uncovered state. And then let me put this cover on. And with the cover on, you'll see here you've got access to your ports on the front through this little zip cover. You can see the screen through there and that clear plastic. And then you've got these little air vents here, which, you know, if you do pack it away, you can fold these down if you want to. You've got a similar setup here. You've got some Velcro pockets and things that you can pop open to get access to some of the ports. And you can zip up here as well and obviously close it out. And then you've got access to these ports here as well for charging purposes. And then on the top, this is quite handy. It opens up, and you'll see here I've got, you know, DC cable that comes with the unit for powering DC devices, and I have a USB-C cable in there as well just for my uses. And that's it. I think in the next stint we'll get on to how did I solve the challenge of charging this unit back up. Okay, so we're sitting in the car now, and I'm still enjoying that coffee that I made earlier. What I want to show you here is what happens when we plug it in with the cigarette lighter. So with the EcoFlow unit, you do get a car charging cable, and that is just a normal cigarette lighter socket connection, and then it goes to, I think it's called an XT60 connector, which you'll see in some of the B-roll that's running now. And that then plugs into the solar/car charging port on the back of the Delta 2. And you can charge it from the car that way. So let's show you what you can achieve using that. Okay, so I have the Delta unit in the car now, and what I'm going to do is I have the XT60 end of this plug connected to the unit itself, to the Delta 2, and I'm going to connect this into the car's cigarette lighter output, which is in the front here on my Land Cruiser. And then let's start the car and let's see what we get out of this thing. You'll see that the unit should pick up that it's connected, and you can see already there. And what I want to do is open the EcoFlow app and show you what the app is showing in terms of the power coming in. So here you can see on the app as well, we're getting the same 95 watts. So that's about the maximum that you're going to get out of the car charging cable that comes with the unit. Probably just under 100 watts. Now, for something like this, which is, you know, a kilowatt hour worth of power, you're going to take, if you do the basic maths, you're going to take upwards of 10 hours to charge this thing in the car from flat, which is not practical. You know, you're seldom going to be driving 10 hours between places, and you know you're going to be consuming power from this all the time, so you've got to take that into account as well. So it's really just not practical. So I'm going to show you a couple of options you've got for that. And you know, as I said, I've had this unit for 8 to 9 months, and I have taken it on trips with me. And my initial solution is what I'll show you first, was effectively to fool this thing into believing that a higher powered solar panel was connected to it, because you can plug a 400 watt solar panel into this. I think this maximum charging input on this is around 800 watts. So you could actually plug in 2 400 watt solar panels. Again, you're probably not going to get a full 800 watts out of those 2 panels, but you'll get probably 600 watts, let's say, maybe more. But that's about as fast as you could charge it with solar panels. But again, using solar panels also not necessarily practical if you're on the move a lot. So how do we do it in the car better? I'm going to show you those solutions now. Okay, to the back of the vehicle now. I've moved the Delta to the top of my drawer system here at the back, and I want to show you another means to do this. So before EcoFlow released the product, which I'm going to show you shortly, the way that I did this was by purchasing one of these units. So you'll see how I've mounted it onto one of the wing boards from my drawer system on the bottom here, and this is how I managed with charging the thing quicker, the EcoFlow Delta 2 quicker, when the other solutions weren't available. So what this is a voltage converter. It's actually a DC-DC converter. I think I paid around 2,500 Rand for this unit from Victron. And what it does is it takes in a 12 volt input, and it outputs, and you'll see it actually goes from 9 to 18 volts, and it can then output 20 to 30 volts. So it's stepping up that voltage for you. Now, the input on the EcoFlow Delta 2, it has a single input at the back here, which let me show you. So the single input at the back here is for solar or car input. Now, it senses the voltage that's coming through on here, and then determines whether it's plugged into the vehicle, the car, or it's plugged into a solar panel. Now, a solar panel typically is going to have much higher voltage. So what we're doing with this unit now is we're going to trick the EcoFlow into believing that it has a high output solar panel attached to it. So I used the standard cable, the solar cable from EcoFlow, which you can order as an add-on, and I put a Brad Harrison or an Anderson connector like this onto the end of it, and I did the same as on the output for the voltage converter. So if we plug those two together, that's our output. Then what I've got is in the back of the vehicle here, and I will let me bring the camera a bit closer here. So in the back of the vehicle here, I have a 12 volt power coming from my secondary battery, which is this red Anderson plug here, right? And I'll connect these two together. So now I've got, and that's quite a high gauge cable. We needed to do that because there's quite a lot of current that flows when you step up the voltage with this unit. So it's quite a thickish cable here. Then once that's plugged in, It's literally just directly connected to the secondary battery in my vehicle. And this unit doesn't compromise. As soon as you switch it on, the voltage converter, it will pull directly from that battery. So let's test this out and I'll show you what it can do. Okay, so I have everything now connected. I've got the 12 volts coming into the unit from the secondary battery up front. It's a lithium battery that's in there, so it's actually slightly higher than 12 volts when it's full. That's going in here, and then this unit, which I forgot to mention, it has an adjustment screw on it. So you can change this voltage output through that adjustment screw, which is located at the bottom here. It's hard to see now, but there's a little screw just behind that positive terminal there, or just to the right and below of the positive terminal here, that you can increase the voltage and regulate it that way. You should do that when the unit's under load. The other thing is it has the ability for a switch to run off of it. So I've just gone and bought a basic on-off switch, which is really just a lamp switch from my local hardware store, and that allows me to turn the unit on and off. If you were to do that in a proper sense, I think what you would want to do is probably connect this to some kind of relay that is triggered by alternator current, so that this unit will automatically switch on when there is alternator power going and charging that secondary battery system, or something along those lines anyway. But I've done a pretty rudimentary solution here, and I've just put a lamp switch on. So you'll see here the unit is at the moment just idling. Nothing's happening. So let's switch this on and watch what happens from the EcoFlow side of things now. So that should now step up the voltage on the output here to, like, I think it's around 28 volts when it's under load. Just give it a moment to figure out that you see the EcoFlow's now realized that there's something plugged into it, and it's realized that the voltage is higher than the 12 volts that it would get from a vehicle, and it's actually charging it at a much higher rate now. So you see that's going to 275 watts, and we can increase that by turning up that voltage output on this unit here. So let me go and get my multimeter and I'll show you some of that as well. Okay, so to demonstrate to you the power that's coming through from the secondary battery, I've got the multimeter set there. And as you can see, we've got 13.4 volts at the moment that's coming from that battery in the front of the vehicle. There's no output at the moment. Well, you can see it's minimal. It's showing 4 volts output on the Victron unit, and you'll see that'll drop off. So it's probably just some surplus voltage that's still existing after we had the unit powered on. So if we now switch this unit on with my rudimentary switch there, watch what happens here. As soon as it picks up this current, you'll see we're getting 20.8 volts that are now coming through. So the unit's actually now activated. It's going to start pushing that 20 volts through to the EcoFlow. And the EcoFlow will go up to 275 odd watts, I think it is, when it's running at that voltage. You can see that's under load now. It drops off a little bit to 19.8 volts. So what we can do next is I'll just turn this voltage screw up and see that we can, under load, we can push this thing even harder. Right, so this thing's under load at the moment, and I'm going to turn that up a little bit, and you'll see there we're getting a maximum output. Now I just want to show you on the multimeter. So I've turned that screw right up to the maximum value now, and you see we're getting 29 volts. Now in the EcoFlow terms, that represents about 410 watts almost, 409 watts as you can see. So with a solution like this, you can accelerate that charging rate by 4 times as much as what the regular charger can do. But since then, what EcoFlow has done is they've released a new product, and this is their alternator charger to address exactly the problem of charging this unit from a vehicle. And you'll notice here on the front, 800 watts. So it's significantly faster. And you'll see here 8 times faster than compared with traditional car chargers, because we know we're only getting about 100 watts off of the traditional charger that comes with the unit. So I have now got, and there's some other advantages to that unit which I'll describe to you in a second, but I just want to show you how I've actually fitted that within the vehicle. Okay, so getting under the bonnet or the hood of the vehicle, let's have a look. What I've done is I have a secondary battery over here under the bonnet, and it is run off of this DC-DC charger from National Luna. And what's nice about this charger is it's an all-in-one. It does 25 amps, and then it also has a solar input. So I can plug a solar panel into here to charge it. Now I've got a bunch of different cables running to the back for power output. If I go to the back of the vehicle quickly, you'll see I have some additional lighting I've fitted here on the top of the tailgate. And then I've also got some Hella plugs in the back of my vehicle that run off that secondary battery. So that's for running a fridge and perhaps some other accessories. That's all I really use that battery for. And then of course it was running the Victron DC-DC converter. Now, the EcoFlow charger runs off my starter battery. So you'll see here labeled EcoFlow. This goes into an inline fuse here, and you'll see the negative cable coming off here as well. But that then runs through the firewall of the vehicle here, and I've run it then down this side. And it runs basically underneath here, along the edges, right through to the back of the vehicle. It runs along here, along the edging, and then it pops out here. So let me just roll these seats forward quickly for you. I'm gonna roll that forward, and you can see the cable comes out here, and it's quite a thick braided cable. Obviously it's got to carry quite a lot of current, so we've got that in place, and then it goes to the unit itself, which is quite a substantial thing. So it's a very sturdy unit. It can be mounted. I did consider perhaps mounting it in here, but I think for my purposes, and probably because I'm being a bit lazy, I think I'm just going to leave it here. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's a good spot for it. So you'll see here on the inputs, you've got firstly an antenna. That's for the wireless connectivity. So this thing has connectivity to Wi-Fi. It also does Bluetooth. So you can manage this remotely from within the vehicle. And if connected to Wi-Fi, you could manage it, properly remotely in the form of, not even being at home, and you can manage it. Now, as EcoFlow does, there's lots of functionality. You can also manage the Delta 2 like that. It then has an alternator in, so that's coming from the starter battery. That's that cable that I've run from the front. And then a battery out. Now, the battery out port goes to this plug here, which is the one that goes into the side of the Delta 2. And I'll plug that in a second, and we'll see what that can do. And then you also have a management port here, which I don't believe that you'll ever use, and a power switch. Power switch is obviously important. That determines obviously whether the thing is actually charging or not. So I'm going to put that back into position. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug the unit in. As with the Delta 2, we should see that we will get some power coming through from the unit. There you go. So from the application, you'll see that we now have power, and it picks up a bunch of things there for us. So we've got things like, you'll see first at the top it says car battery port is under voltage. The reason for that is that we don't want this charger to activate unless there is alternator current coming through to the battery and actually charging the starter battery. So you can set that threshold here. You'll see that this charger is enabled to start working at the bottom there. So you've got to switch to turn it on and off. So you can remotely control this thing, as I said before, which is super handy. Under the settings, you'll see here you can decide a couple of things. So first off, maximum power output, and again that's just a toggle. So we'll go for maximum. The start voltage, now this determines that threshold that it will actually activate the charging. So as soon as the car's alternator is sending charge to the battery, and you'll see that it says car battery port is under voltage. That'll go away when we start the car, which I'll show you in a second. So I'm going to start the motor vehicle. And as soon as you see that come in, vehicle's now running, and you should see, there you go, it's gone over the 13.9 volt threshold. So I'm going to turn the EcoFlow unit around, and you can see, give it a moment to activate. We've got to turn the charger on from the app. Now that it's active, we should see a high speed charge kick into place. So it's under all sorts of different conditions that this thing will actually adjust its settings. So we've set this thing to 800 watts, give it a moment, it should pick up the voltage. There you go, it's already going up to 200, and there you go. Obviously when you start up the car, there's a bunch of other systems that are running and are pulling current from the alternator, and you'll see this thing will actually fluctuate. As some of those systems free up the alternator current, this thing should actually step up to 800 watts as we need it. So you'll see that's going on at 500 watts at the moment. It'll also decide how quickly it wants to charge based upon the level of that battery. So let's just try and see if we can pull this thing down. So 200 watts, it should drop off now. There you go. So it's stabilizing at 200 watts. It's going to charge like that. But let's go and change that now and set this much higher. Save to 800 watts. Let's see what it does now if it goes beyond that 500 watt barrier. So this seems to be going on at about 560 watts. I have seen it go right up to the 800 watt number previously. So to get the charger to go up to the 800 watts, you actually just need to be driving. So if I put my foot onto the accelerator here, get the engine running a little bit, and there you can see we're getting up to 800 watts of power, and this thing will be fully charged in less than an hour, which is ideally what we're looking for, right? You've got this thing out in the bush with you, whatever, and you want to get this thing charged back up after making your coffee in the morning and running all the other things you do, charging laptops, everything, you want something that's going to charge it back up quickly again. So this is an ideal solution for that. But let me show you some of the other functions now. So I have a battery monitor here in my vehicle, and you can see there that the secondary battery is currently at 13.8 volts and the main battery is at 12.4. What I want to show you here is one of the cool functions of this alternator charger from EcoFlow is what we call a reverse charge. So this will enable me to actually recharge both my batteries in my case. So it's connected to the starter battery. When I enable the reverse charge function, you see it asks me, do I want to confirm? I say yes. As soon as I do that, it'll now push current from the EcoFlow to the starter battery. And there you can see immediately we've got 13.8 volts coming in. That's running from the EcoFlow. So now you've got a power box in the back, or power pack, the EcoFlow, charging your main battery. So that's quite useful. Now I've got the National Lunar charger running off of the starter battery. So what it's actually going to do is make the National Lunar also charge the secondary battery. So in my scenario, I'm charging all my batteries now from the EcoFlow. And you'll see here on the app, it's pushing out 350 odd watts to the actual battery that it's connected to. And then here you can see there's a bit of a drop off now on the National Lunar to 10.8 amps. It's dropping down, probably because that battery's already pretty full. So yeah, it's very, very handy. You can also put it into maintenance mode here. So you'll see there's a battery maintenance function. And what that will do is just keep your starter battery healthy when you are traveling. I hope that you found this video useful. As you can see, the EcoFlow Alternator Charger is a very handy unit if you do go the route of running with the EcoFlow units as a power pack for your uses when you go camping. I think having the alternator charger is a necessity. You know, either way that you do it. But I think for the price point, the EcoFlow Alternator Charger is around 6,000 Rand. I'm not sure what that is in dollars, but it's a hell of a lot less dollars, I can tell you that. But it is something that is a necessity if you're going to be going out and traveling with an EcoFlow unit in your vehicle. It enables you to charge it up much quicker, which is a challenge with these power packs, and it gets you the benefit of the EcoFlow because they can charge that quickly. So I hope you found the video useful. Hope that it enlightens you, gets you out there to go and look at an option like this for your travels. And as always, I hope that you found it informative. If you've stayed right till the end, please like, subscribe. Again, I just do this as a hobby, but you know those likes and those subscriptions always help me generate a little bit of pocket money to do more things, and who knows where I'll take this channel in the future. At the moment, it really is just a hobby for me, and I really enjoy making these videos, and hopefully you find them useful in your day-to-day travels. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to get some of those other videos out to you soon. Bye-bye.